During the season of Lent, Catholics all over the world are used to certain rules for fast and abstinence. And they're not applicable in the same way to everybody at all places and times, but one of the interesting things is the fact that in the recent history of the Church, those rules for fast and abstinence have gotten much more lax than they ever were, particularly in the ancient Church. And it's a little bit kind of disturbing to a certain degree because we think of the fact that we have so many more opportunities for food and drink than we probably ever have in history. And so why is the Church becoming weaker with these things rather than stronger? During this time of the COVID-19 epidemic, we're seeing bishops actually releasing from the disciplines on fast and abstinence. And so a lot of Catholics are saying, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Shouldn't we be doing more fasting and abstinence than less? And instead, even the little we have, the bishops are saying, don't worry about it. There was even a bishop who, I think he was trying to be funny and lighten the mood a little bit, who said, well, haven't we done enough penance as it is, right? And I think a lot of Catholics were kind of scandalized and offended by that comment because there's a lot of Catholics who are really very worried about why this is happening, of their place in it, how they can spiritually live all of this. And even in our own diocese, the bishop has released us from abstinence from meat on Fridays. And I thought a lot about this. First of all, when we receive a dispensation from something, then we don't have to use it, right? I mean, it's a dispensation, so we can use it if our well-formed conscience kind of leads us to do that. Now, some people don't have well-formed consciences, I get it. But the point of the dispensation is that we should have the maturity to decide whether we should use it or not. I personally think that there are many people who are in a position to be able to offer up to God a greater sacrifice this Lent of prayer, fasting, works of mercy, abstinence, and by all means they should do so. And in fact, I invite during these last 2 weeks of Holy Lent, our people here at Prince of Peace to increase their fast and abstinence. Now, here's the thing, though, is that often when we think about these things, we tend to think of our own particular situation, and there's no way that we can think of the myriad of other possible situations in which people find themselves. Remember that in the Latin Church, the rules for fasting and abstinence are such as that they're binding under pain of mortal sin for a large swath of the faithful, and they're designed so that most of the faithful can enjoy them. Now, the thing is that in a time of crisis, a lot of times you have people who are healthcare workers, people who are in transportation, who may not have the same access as they would normally. Think about a nurse who's pulling an 18 to 20 hour shift, who is just trying to get through the day, and some helpful soul, puts Chick-fil-A in her face and says, eat this so you can have something, and she just does. Well, do you really want her to have agonizing crises of conscience over eating meat on Friday in a situation like that? The Church does not burden her children unnecessarily. Now, the problem with the dispensation is that, can a bishop really think through all of the conceivable, possible, reasonable situations in which a dispensation would apply effectively? Well, that's going to be hard. An obvious one is healthcare workers, but there are others. Again, it's important for us to realize that not everybody lives in exactly the same situation that we do. Christian maturity is to be able to view past the minimum. There's some people who don't take fasting and abstinence seriously, okay? Are they going to take it any more or less seriously because of these dispensations? I don't know. The important thing for us is to have the spiritual freedom to use the dispensation if we think that it is important for us at that time, and to not be trapped by minimalism. I'm in a situation in which I can freely avail myself of the dispensation or not. I'm not going to, because I don't need to. So I think that it's important for us to realize that we are free to disagree with our bishops and even the sovereign pontiff in their prudential application of these decisions, but we should always do so respectfully. Doing so from a place not of charity and respect isn't going to get us in the churches any faster, and it's not going to save anyone from this epidemic.